Hello everyone. Today's project involves me sitting in our boat right now. The problem we have is that the bilge pump has stopped working. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to replace a bilge pump. It looks like it's going to be a pretty easy job. I'll go ahead and start by diagnosing the bad pump, and we'll walk through it step by step from there and show you how this project can be done. Take a look. So in your boat, if you look to the very back, as far down as you can go in your boat, you'll find that where the plug is where a bilge pump should be. And ours I actually slid out here. I have it in front. It usually sits right where that opening is, because that's where the plug goes in. But I pulled it forward so we can work on it easily from here. So this is an Atwood V750, 750 gallons per hour. And thanks to my father-in-law, I was able to diagnose this thing as being a bad pump pretty easily. I'll show you what we did. All we do is we take off this cover. There's a little spot here that says, right there, it says to push that dot, and you can rotate the cover off, which I can do easily with one hand there. And then it should lift off. And that reveals the impeller. So down in there, that part was kind of built up with gunk and some just little wood scraps and stuff, but that wasn't the issue. The issue belonged here. This impeller should spin freely in either direction, but it is bound up tight, and if I do force it to spin, it grinds a lot, meaning that there's something wrong with the motor. The bearing is shot or something. It won't even spin anymore, so it's really shot. And the reason, or the way I knew I had a bad bilge pump, was that I had no water coming out when I turned on the bilge pump, but then when I checked the fuses, I found that my fuse was blown, so I put an extra one in there, and immediately when I turned on the bilge pump, it blew the fuse, telling me to look deeper and find out that this was the issue. So what we're going to do here is trace these wires up to where they connect, and then we'll wire in the new one. We'll disconnect this here with a simple hose clamp in a 3/4 inch connection there, and then I actually have an automatic float back there that is what turns on and off the pump. So we're going to find where those wires connect to these wires here, and we'll make that change out. So first things first, trace these wires back, disconnect them, and disconnect the hose clamp. All right, I wanted to make a quick mention of the fuses, as that's what triggered me to something being wrong with the bilge pump. This is the initial fuse that was in there, and if you are familiar with these kind of fuses, it says the amperage of the fuse there, and then if you look at that element inside there, you'll see that that one is fried. It's disconnected, which means that we went over that 5 amps and it broke the fuse, breaking the circuit. I put the next one in there. I stole it from another circuit, and harder to see, but see that black mark right there? That's where a little pop happened when it fried that wire. You can see it on both sides. If you look closely with the light, you can usually see that the wire is disconnected. And then I have 2 new fuses that are replaced, and those look nice. You can see the element inside there is continuous. So we'll go ahead and put these back in the fuse box. If you ever don't know where your fuse box is, it's a good thing to know. Mine is kind of tucked in underneath the steering wheel there. Just a little block with spots for fuses like this, and then a little ground bar as well next to it. So I'm going to go ahead and scoot under there and replace these 2 fuses. Okay, we got that disconnected. Got the hose clamp off there, pulled that out. I got my wires disconnected. This is a butt connector for small electrical, like automotive electrical. I tried first, it's just a crimp-on connector, right? So I tried to undo the crimping on this side to see if I could pull the wire out, but it just kept slipping and it wasn't coming out nicely. Actually, on this side I was trying. So I just snipped it. I have a bunch of these crimp-on connectors like this. You just slide you strip the wire, put about 3/8 of an inch or so, and you put it in there, and then with your crimping tool, you crimp it to the appropriate diameter. So this is a red connector, so on my crimping tool, I go to the red dot, and I crimp it with that, and that'll crimp it down nice. So that's what I'm going to do for this black one. I had to put a new one on. For the brown one, I was actually able to uncrimp the connector that's under the boat, and I can reuse that one, so that should be no problem. I'll just make sure once I crimp it again that it's nice and tight and the connection is secure, and we should be fine. So the next thing to do is to grab the new pump and start wiring it back in, just like the old one was. All right, here's the new pump. Purchased this from Amazon, and it is a Tsunami T500. It's Atwood brand. From what I can tell, Atwood doesn't make that style anymore. They switched mostly over to this style it's called a cartridge pump. It's actually, you can pull the motor cartridge out and just replace that if you need to, or you can even keep a spare in your boat if you needed to have that assurance if you were on a long trip or something like that. Wiring is the same, brown and black, so that should be easy to hook up. I just wanted to explain a little bit here. I downsized from the 750 gallons per hour to the 500 gallons per hour. This boat does not take on much water. It's mainly from people's life jackets and tubes and skis coming in and out, that sort of thing. So I was okay doing the 500. I actually got a Amazon warehouse deal on it, so it was very inexpensive. I thought for that price, I may as well suffer losing that 250 gallons per hour for the little amount of water that I pump out of this thing. So we're gonna go ahead, find where those connections meet up, and make them. All right, folks, I got this connections made up. I actually put tape on this one because I have 2 wires going into a connector, and I just didn't like how it felt. There were a little bit of exposed wire, so I just taped it up. It's in a moist environment, it can't hurt. And this one looks really nice, so there's no gaps in there. I couldn't even stick my multi-tester in there to get a reading, so that looks really good. And I noticed that when I turn on my switch for my bilge pump, this bilge pump turns on. And then also if I raise up the float back here, the bilge pump turns on. So we're good in that regard. Now we've got a bilge pump here, but it's not in the right spot. So we need to get this mounted back here behind the switch. There's actually a mounting plate there from the old one. I'm going to take that out and I'm going to put this one in. So it's going to require some crawling back there to get to it. This one you just press here and you can unlock this strainer, release it, and then there's 3 screw holes on the bottom there that I can take and screw into the little piece of wood that's in the back there. That kind of just keeps it elevated a little bit, and that'll keep this thing firmly in place. And then also I will probably beforehand, well, in the meantime, I'll connect this hose barb here to the discharge hose here with a hose clamp, and that'll be all that for that. All right, we got this pump installed back here. Got the hose clamp on it, got it clipped into place. So it is ready to go. Next thing I'm gonna do is deal with this wire mess. I'm gonna get it tied up with a zip tie. It's gonna pull all these up and out of the way so they're not in the water when the bottom of the boat does fill up. And then we're ready to put the plug in back there and pour some water in here and see how it takes it. We'll get these tied up and go from there. All right, I poured about, 6 gallons of water in the bilge on here. You can see it's not quite enough to get the float all the way up, but it'll be enough to pump out. So I see the pump back there is fully submerged. We're gonna go ahead and hit our switch. Right here, bilge. Turns on. And that's a good sign. So we're gonna call this project complete. If you have a bilge pump in your boat, which you should if you have a boat, this is an easy step-by-step way to replace it. I hope this is helpful to you if you've got a similar job. And good luck boating. Enjoy the water.